right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bread Theory Head Theory Takeover. Your wonderful your wonderful hosts, Tricia and I are back.
Hello. Glad to be back.
I'm glad too. I felt really bad about last week. P.S. Last week was completely my fault. Just in case you guys need somewhere to direct that anger, it's here.
Transmute that anger. But yeah, it shit happens. I ain't mad
Yeah.
about it. I don't think anybody else really is either.
Well,
You
still.
know, part of life. Yeah, sometimes things come up, but yeah. In the meantime, uh, I got to do a little bit of art fun there to see, like, I don't know if you pop our cams off for a second, let everybody see we now have a logo for Head Theory.
Oh, nope, that was not what we wanted to do. Nope, that got worse. How do we make us go away?
Actually, I think we would have had to
You need to come
load
show
it
me. You
in,
can't tell me from over there.
I think we would have had to load it into the layover part. I don't know, but
Yes, I am.
just wanted to show you the result.
Uh,
Yeah. So that right there is the
oh.
result of the collaboration of our ideas being brought together there. I think we did pretty good here.
And Trisha's immense talents because the computer stuff is not my jam.
But creative ideas are. So
Yes.
that was fun collabing on that one.
Yeah. It turned out great. It's so cool.
Thank you.
Lucky to have such an awesome co host.
Oh, something's up with the audio. I can barely hear you now.
Uh oh. Something's up with the audio. She
Your
can't hear
mic
me.
is. I can just barely hear you. Your mic is. I don't know.
Don't yell. Come fix.
Help!
She said she can't hear me though. So it's very soft. Is this better?
Yep. Okay, so your mic
Okay.
isn't on. Maybe your mic's volume was down. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I might have been too far away from it. So I
Ah,
started to like me.
there we go.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
There
Well,
we go.
I forget where exactly we left off last time, but you know, we've been discussing psychedelics and psychology,
hmm
how these plant medicines are very beneficial to not only maintaining just, I don't know, a peaceful state of being to be able to deal with stress and anxiety, but it helps with um, all kinds of stuff. If you're dealing with an addiction, you can get clean from that with the assistance of psychedelics with your psychiatric work there. Um, and one of the biggest proponents of that in history, well, two of them, Timothy Leary and Ram Dass. Um, they were professors, and I'm sure everybody watching this is aware they had some legal trouble because of allowing their students to participate in said experiments, but I feel like they were at least doing so in an ethical manner with the consent of said students, unlike the CIA, who dosed the public with LSD and didn't get consent from anybody. They just did it randomly to
Right.
see how people would respond. So just saying, consent matters. But the things that they were able to discover with doing this research have been very fundamental to research that is still being done to this day that is showing positive benefits of microdosing with mushrooms, for example.
hmm
Yeah, I feel like
See.
a name. Um, I did find a few things here, like some lectures from Timothy Leary, uh, and let's see. I'm going to rewind this one back to the beginning here. If you want to go ahead and hit the screen share, we can start out with a little bit of this lecture here. Timothy Leary speaking at UCLA on January 18th, 1967, and maybe discuss some of the stuff he's talking about here.
Hey, Zach, if she wants to share, do I need to share system audio as well? Or does she need to send me the link and then I share from there?
This is it.
Okay.
I did the screen share thing already and set it to share my system audio for the video. In that toggle column on your left hand side, there we go.
It was, and then I goofed it up. Sorry.
Oh, it's all good. It's a learning curve, man. There's a lot of stuff the software does that takes a minute to get used to.
Yeah.
Blow that up full screen for at home watching along.
Medical School in San Francisco, and finally to Harvard, where he served as a lecturer in clinical psychoanalysis. Dr. Leary, at the age of 39, began experiments with psychedelics, specifically LSD-25. In 1963, Dr. Leary and Richard Alpert were dismissed from Harvard in order to curb the undergraduate interest in LSD. Dr. Leary established in Mexico the International Foundation of Internal Freedom, but the Mexican government demanded that he leave the country. He considers the current marijuana laws unjust and a violation of the Constitution, specifically the First Amendment guaranteeing the right of spiritual exploration, the Fifth Amendment guaranteeing immunity of self-incrimination, and the Eighth and Ninth Amendments. At approximately 10 minutes of 1, we will have a short break. Those of you who are interested in staying for a question and answer period will please move to the front. Microphones will be set up at either side of the ballroom to accommodate those who wish to ask questions.
A long intro.
Our only request is that you make your question
Love that
only
suit.
a question and not a statement,
right?
So that as many people can ask Dr. Leary something as possible. And now it is my pleasure to welcome to the university Dr. Timothy Leary.
We do not own this footage. We're using it for educational purposes. Disclaimer.
To continue the lecture, also begun in the middle of a sentence, this time at UCLA, Los Angeles, California, United States of America, planet Earth, the year 1967, as time is reckoned in the Common Era, about 1 million or perhaps 2 million years after our species started its game, about 2 billion years after the genetic code began its game, about 5 billion years after God began his dance on this planet. Well, we know where we are. The chemical I'm about to ingest is odorless, tasteless, and colorless.
Okay, I feel like I have to say something.
It's addictive.
The uproar
Okay,
in
I'll
that.
pause it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's so interesting to just hear the uproar of like the chemical I'm about to ingest and everybody's going crazy. It's like, this doesn't impact you. This has nothing to do with you. You're not taking it. He is.
Right,
It's
they're
his
like,
choice.
You can
Yeah.
like hear everybody clutching their pearls.
Right? That's so weird to me. It's like, oh, what is that thing? Like, you're right to whatever ends at the tip of my nose or, you know, oh my God, I can't think of it.
Just swing your arms.
Your rights end where the next person's begin.
Yeah. Like, come on. Sorry, that was just like hit a nerve today.
It's all good. It's one of those things where, like, when you, I wish this had full video, not just, a still frame, but when you can hear everybody in the crowd clutch their pearls, it's fucking hilarious.
It is, and it's something so small
Mm-hmm.
and so insignificant. Like, literally could not have anything less to do with you. But by all
Right.
means, please freak out about it.
Right. And they're just like, oh my.
Yeah.
It's like, what did you think you were coming here to listen to him discuss?
Right. Like, we're going to talk about different rose varietals.
Right. It's fucking great. Let's see.
It can be lethal in large quantities. And it's harder and harder to get in its pure state.
At this point, because of him saying it's lethal in large quantities, I think he's actually talking about water.
I have three things to say to you today. The first is that the only point of life is the religious quest. The second is that you must act out, express openly what you have learned in your religious experiences. And third, you must detach yourself from the immediate tribal game.
I'm going to pause again for just a moment to point out that this is one of those areas where some nuance is definitely needed, because what he's referring to as religious, I refer to as spiritual and independent from religion itself. Because he's literally talking about, that spiritual connection that we have with each other, with everything around us. And that is something I definitely acknowledge, but I'm an atheist. I have no religion. There is nothing I worship. And that applies to a lot of other people who are also spiritually inclined, but don't follow a religion per se. However, a lot of these fundamentals that he's going to be breaking down are initially what the goal was with religious teachings and experiences in ancient humans.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. Like, I'm not a religious person at all. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I kind of sway back and forth between atheist and agnostic, still trying to figure stuff out. But, like, I enjoy the practice of meditation. I think there's something to being intuitive, because I see it as an in tune with what's around me.
Yes. That. Because when it comes down to it, we really are just horny, electrified meat. We are energy riding around in a meat suit for a while, There's no part of our actual matter and makeup that ceases to exist when we die. That energy still exists. The matter still exists, at least until it gets broken down, if you actually get buried without being, soaked in formaldehyde and pumped full of it. But, you don't actually cease to exist. We are material beings. And part of that material essence and how we exist is that energy, that literal electrical current that your heart puts out and sends a pulse literally through the entirety of your body. That is an internal pacemaker. It's an electrical shock that happens every time your heart beats. We are made of just electrified meat. As such, on the chemical and physical level, every molecule in our being interacts with all of the others around us. It is that connection that we seek a little more enlightenment about.
Right. And just like bringing awareness, looking around. What do you see?
Right.
What's happening? I mean, shit, I feel like most people can like walk into a room and get a sense of what's going on without speaking to anyone because they're tuning in to their surroundings.
Yes.
But some people have a hard time doing that.
Right. Sometimes you're distracted, sometimes you're under stress, and certain things can make it where you're not as observant of everything that's going on around you as you would be if you weren't dealing with that stressor in life at that moment, or whatever the case
Right.
may be. Um, you know, uh, it's a matter of are you really observing everything around you and experiencing it, or are you just blindly blazing through it because you've got 50,000 things on your list of shit to do today and forget to ever stop and, take a breath and just experience that which is around you.
Right. Exactly. Oh, man. Like, you think about, like, yeah. I was just thinking about, like, the kiddos and stuff that I work with, like, different types of neurodivergent and trauma backgrounds. Like, the ones that are neurodivergent aren't aware of what else is going on in the room, and they have to be taught how to read a room in a situation. But then, like, those students that have had major traumas in their life are hyper aware of every little thing that is going on.
Yep.
And they can tell, probably before me, when someone's going to lose their shit.
Yep.
Because they're better connected. Because they've had to.
They've had to be. They've had to learn how to read people in order to try to anticipate what other people are going to do.
Right.
And it's one of those factors where, as much as I hate the trauma that many of us have gone through, it kind of embeds superpowers like that of being able to really read what is going on with a person's body language, with the change in inflection in their voice, even change in the dilation of their pupils.
Mm-hmm. I had someone
that hyper awareness.
Right.
Is survival.
I had someone who was an eyebrow watcher. And they would, like, watch eyebrows, and they could tell that kid's gonna get really mad in, like, 30 seconds because of eyebrows. And so it was like, oh, damn, I'm gonna start watching those eyebrows now. See if I can see the same thing myself.
Right. So you just see it coming, like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Their vibe just shifted.
Yep.
And it's in an eyebrow with it.
Like, the aura is off. We are gonna blow up. But it's important, and you're right. Like, it's a gift in some cases, that, like, heightened awareness. But I feel like, too, it could very well be a curse.
Yes, because it can get extremely overwhelming to have to constantly be hypervigilant.
Mm-hmm. And it's a hard thing to break.
Yeah. That's something that at 40 years old, I still deal with, trying to balance that of, it's one thing to be hypervigilant like that when out in public in situations where something could happen, where you should be, like, watching over your shoulder. Like, if you're walking out of a store late at night out to your car, yeah, you want to be hypervigilant and make sure nobody sneaks up on you and tries to rob you, steal your car, kidnap you, whatever. But, having to remind asshole brain, like, hey, we don't need to be hypervigilant right now. We're in our own space. I don't need to be over aware of every little sound that happens outside and things like that. It gets to a point of having to tell your asshole brain, please fuck off, sit down and shut up, because your survival skills aren't needed right this moment.
Right. Like, it's time to take a break. We're okay.
Yup.
But that's,
like, we're all right.
But that's where, like, the herbal substances come in, right? Like, people are aware of the hypervigilance or the lack of attention to detail. And these things, depending on the person and their physiological body, might help them better regulate themselves.
Mm-hmm. This one right here, this is a marijuana extract. Thankfully, I am in a state where this is fully decriminalized,
Mm-hmm.
Because this is one of those things that helps to calm stress, anxiety. It even helps in moments of, like, PTSD that blows anxiety out of the fucking water. Being able to slow the overthinking mind down,
Mm-hmm.
and take a step back, be the observer, see what's going on, you know, and be able to assess the situation from a more logical standpoint, you know. It also helps me focus. I've got ADHD like a motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
And this helps with that ability to even focus and be able to observe all details going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, that stress level gets pushed too far to the other direction, and your hypervigilance gets blown up like a fucking atomic bomb.
Mm-hmm.
This helps. Psychedelics help.
Right? There's options though. Like, you know, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's such an underutilized tool. And I think capitalism is so afraid to like let it be, and it's like, look what happened to the like economy when gay marriage became okay. Like shit. The money spent on weddings and ceremony and hell divorces, like come on. We got a
It's
big
one of those things
uptick.
where when they find a way to profit from it, then they'll legalize it. You know, we've seen that in all the states that have legalized marijuana so far, is because they worked out a way to tax it and have those tax dollars go towards benefiting the communities where the dispensaries are at, you know,
Mhm.
things like that. But I mean, at least most of these states have also put in place um, stuff where you can also grow your own at home. So, you know, if you want to grow for yourself and make your own extracts, your own edibles, things like that, you can do so. You don't have to buy it from a grower or a dispensary storefront and pay those taxes. It's only, you know, like if you're
Mhm.
unable to grow for yourself, you could even have a grower grow for you, and still get around a lot of that. But I'm still thankful that we have dispensaries and such, because sometimes it is easier to just go to the damn store and pick up what you need.
Right. Or your stuff might not be ready.
Right. You never know. You know, sometimes shit takes a little longer to get harvest finished up and get the products made from it, you know, especially if you're like me and, you know, just flour alone doesn't cut it. I smoke flour, I vape wax, I use topical canna cream to help when I'm dealing with muscle pain, nerve pain, arthritis pain, whatever it is. Those things help with that.
Mhm.
But these are all in that family of entheogens, which is plant medicines that have a positive effect. Technically, even marijuana is considered a mild hallucinogen. Although, to be honest, the only time I have had anything remotely close to a hallucination from it was from eating a lot of medibles one day while baking and doing quality control. Um,
Sorry.
Got to make sure the dosages are on point, right? Yeah. So I've seen the walls wobble a little bit from eating too many brownies, cakes, cookies, and pieces of pie in one day. But worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to fall asleep, take a really good nap. You're going to wake up hungry and eat all the munchies in the house. You're good to go. But you know, when you work your way through this entire family of entheogens, you see that each one of these plant medicines specific roles in not just mediating our skin suits as far as like on the psychological tip, but the physical as well. Like the reason why this one right here has such a vast range of positive effects is because it's, you know, literally working with an endocannabinoid system that is in our skin suits. Our skin suits are made for this to be part of our diet, and eating it, smoking it, the whole nine yards. If it weren't meant to be ingested, we wouldn't have a fucking endocannabinoid system. Here we are, we do. And the same applies to all these other plant medicines that are in that entheogen family, the psychedelics, the tryptamines, the phenethylamines. The reason why they have a positive effect is because our bodies are literally made to work with all of these plants that are around us, whether they are just regular food or whether they have other benefits that go along with that. But food is medicine, plants are
Mhm.
medicine, And the same concept, it doesn't just apply to the carrots and tomatoes and broccoli and shit you're growing in your garden.
Mm-hmm.
It applies to psychological medicine, spiritual medicine as well.
Right. I have a weird question for you.
Fire
Since
away.
you live in a place where this is accepted and this is common practice, if you go to a farmer's market, are there dispensary type booths set up at the farmer's market, or is that not okay yet?
Some, yes, and I don't know what the limitations are. So far, all I have seen available at the farmers markets are things like honey that's infused with CBD. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
CBD is one of the cannabinoids that is very effective for pain and anxiety, but it's not psychoactive. It's not going to get you high.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be why that one is readily available at farmers markets. I mean, you can go to the gas stations here and buy CBD gummies, CBD
Mm-hmm.
vapes, and CBD topical, whether it's roll on oil. Give me a second, I'll show you. I got this at the Circle K around the corner. This
Uh-huh.
is a CBD roll on for, neck pain, back pain. And while you can see it's almost empty, I use the shit
Yeah.
out of this stuff. But that was like 20, $25, something like that at the gas station.
Wow.
So at least in areas where it has been decriminalized, there is that readily available factor there, at least for the CBD isolates.
Mm-hmm.
As far as ones that are a combination of THC and other cannabinoids, those are still just dispensary only, as far as I know. I just haven't seen them sold anywhere else yet. But
Okay.
that probably will become a thing eventually as people realize how beneficial this is, how not harmful it is. Because,
Mm-hmm.
again, the side effects of weed are happy, hungry, and sleepy.
Yeah.
You know,
Those are all things that I like to be. At least when I can have the food, take the nap.
right, right. I mean, hell, like depending on your body chemistry, there'll be different strains that work differently for, certain things. Like during the day, I can smoke flower or use vape that is a hybrid of sativa and indica, where it's got a little bit more of that uppy vibe. I personally
Mm-hmm.
can't do straight sativas because they give me anxiety, and I want the opposite of that. I want it to help. So
Right.
I tend to lean more towards indicas. And then for nighttime, when I can get into that mode of just happy, hungry, sleepy,
Mm-hmm.
then it's time for the pure indicas. Like, okay, calm the back pain down, you know.
Yeah.
Natalie says, I feel like the products I tried in the past didn't have enough CBD in it for pain. That very well could be the case. I find the most effective for pain to be a 1-to-1 ratio of THC to CBD. And for example, this one, well, now I got to find the box. Give me a second. This can of cream that I got here, this is 550 milligrams full spectrum. So this stuff is actually pretty effective. This is very high CBD. And only a little bit of THC. This stuff, though, works within a matter of minutes, like even with nerve pain. It's called Lava Hemp Touch.
Mm-hmm.
That's from the dispensary. That stuff is on fucking point. So is, oh, where'd my other jar go? There we go. Baby, it's chill outside. This is one I got at a dispensary in Michigan. This one's peppermint infused, and this is a 1-to-1 THC to CBD ratio. So this works pretty good for back pain and whatnot as well. But yeah, you definitely have to have high CBD in there for it to be effective, really, for pain. The stuff that's high THC and low CBD will still give you some benefits for the pain control, but not as much as if it was at least a 1-to-1 ratio or more CBD. I don't know. I'm
Like,
rambling.
no, you're not. That's like really helpful. Like I feel sad that I live where I live because like I was thinking about the farmers market thing because there's a kombucha man and he has a variety that has hemp in it, but for some reason the city of St. Paul will not allow us to purchase the hemp infused kombucha. But if we go to Minneapolis, then it's okay. But I'm like, it's hemp. It's just
Right.
hemp.
Natalie, can you see our little windows are popped down super small, like icon size in the bottom of where the video screen share is? Because we're listening to a Timothy Leary lecture. I'm not sure if that was still playing when you got in here or not, but sorry, we're just tiny. We are
Did
here
you
to-
find us? What are you doing? Zach's helping.
We can do it like how Zach does, of just making all three windows the same size. You know, it's not like there's even really video playing in there. It's all audio and just to picture him being silly.
Yeah. Can you see us now, Natalie?
Oh, goodness. Speaking of, I got a pinched nerve in my hip.
Ouch.
Don't
I
mind me
hate
wobbling all over here, trying to get readjusted into a comfortable position. That's just my sciatic nerve screaming hello. What's up, Stoop Kid? Thank you for joining us.
Hey.
Oh, that's funny, Natalie. I've done that before. I also just saw a moment ago that Zach had asked for me to turn on the closed captions on the video, so I will go ahead and do that right now before we hit play on there, just so I don't forget. And I wonder, I don't know how to make that bigger. I don't know.
Should we adjust ourselves?
I wonder, I'm looking here to see, because there's something I saw Zach do on one of the book pieces where he was able to make the closed captions themselves a larger size font. And I don't know how.
Zach, you did a cool thing with closed captioning. Are you going to help us? He's
How do I make the closed caption get bigger than that?
If he's texting this to me, I swear to God.
Settings, you can adjust font size. Okay.
Sure.
Uh,
Default.
Well, let's see. Oh, maybe it's under options. It is! All right. Thank you, Zach. We'll just, bam, make it huge. There we go. Or wait, how's 400%? That's, oh, that's too big. Ah!
Let's see if we can make Timothy bigger. Is that better?
And
I feel like I'm at the eye doctor. 1 or 2? 2 or 3?
There we go. There we go. And now my name's not blocking the
Do that one though. So
closed captions either.
But it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll go ahead and hit play on this so we can see what else Tim's got to say here. And yeah, I feel that
Right?
facial expression right there in your comment, Natalie.
That is an underutilized emoji, and I think I need to get on board with this and fix it.
Right? It really expresses the cringe.
Absolutely.
Find the timeless message within. 3 things I have to say to you. First of all, when your life is over, you look back and you will remember that the only thing that had any point or meaning was your religious experience.
Spiritual.
By the religious experience, I mean the immediate, direct, ecstatic confrontation with the timeless energies which exist within you. And any of your actions which do not center on the religious experience, any of your actions which aren't leading you to get high, center, are Roby peripheral, and eccentric. A religious search is the process of turning on. You have to turn on. Now, after you've turned on, what do you do? You have to express it. You have to live it out. When you've contacted the divine process within, you'll discover to your astonishment that God is not, as you may have been told, a man who lived in the past and died, and whose word is now preserved by such religious institutions as the Reader's Digest, or the phenomenon of Christmas cards, nor the philosophy of Ronald Reagan. The divine process, if it's anything, if it can be described, and of course man describes God at his own risk, but if it is to be described, it's closer to music. The divine process is a rhythm, it's a beat, which continually manifesting itself in sequences, over and over again, repetition. The same thing that's dancing in the stars, the same thing that's dancing inside the cells of your body, the same thing that's dancing inside the nucleus of the atom, the same problems of north, south, east, west, black, dark, invader, intrusion, escalation, water purification that we worry about at the political level is happening within every cell in your body. Indeed, every cell in your body is an organization of communication, defense, transportation, corruption, cleanliness, much more complicated than the city of New York. God's rhythm is expressed at every level of energy, and it's always sequence, it's always cycle, it's always doubling back on itself. When you've turned on, you tune in on this beat, and then you have to start dancing. And the rest of your life becomes in tune with the rhythm that you're discovering within. After you turn on, you tune in. And you can't turn on and tune in unless you systematically, gently, aesthetically begin to detach yourself from the immediate tribal game, which is always anthill. And this process of detaching yourself, tuning in, we call drop out. You have to drop out. Now, it may seem eccentric to you that I, a middle-aged man, comes before you and tells you that you have to get religion. I'm a little astonished myself at being here and saying these things. 25 years ago, I was a college undergraduate, meeting as we are today in rooms lit by electricity, listening to braying middle-aged men of the culture stand before us with microphones, essentially to present their philosophy of life, really to defend their point of view, to rationalize what they're doing, and with the implication that perhaps some of you would want to, some of us would want to follow the example of this speaker. Now, 25 years ago, when I was a college undergraduate, there was nowhere listed in the college catalog the courses that one might take to work into the profession which I now belong to. You can look at your college catalog from aeroscience through to xerography, zoology, and you'll find no courses or majors in how to become a full-time searcher after the divine process. And the vocational counselors and the occupational psychologists won't help you either. You won't find my profession listed in the yellow pages of the phone book. Now, it's all taped out for you in the college catalog, beloved robots. Step by step, your life, any profession you want to choose is there, as it was for me. If you want to go into politics, study history, law, political science, and when you graduate, join one of the two parties, and with a little hard work and luck and an Ipana smile, You may get to be mayor or governor. Medicine, it's all taped out for you, beloved robots. Pre-med, medical school, internship, residency, practice. In 15 years, you'll have your Cadillac. Interestingly enough, when I was an undergraduate, and I'm sure it's true here today, if you want to follow the profession of founding a religion, the last place that you're probably encouraged to do this would be in the divinity school.
Right. They won't want you founding your own.
In other times and in other countries
It's
today,
a bridge too far.
my profession, which is the searcher of the divine process, goes under the name of guru, alchemist, shaman, psychophysicist, spiritual teacher. Now, my profession has a long and ancient history. It may be the oldest profession around. It's nothing new. I'm going to mention a few of my predecessors with no implication that I equal them, but just as any young beginner in profession looks to the textbooks and the men in his field in the past, so I do the same today. About a generation ago, 2 generations ago, there was a man at Harvard who was practicing my profession. He wrote what I think to be the best book ever written by an American psychologist. It's called The Varieties of Religious Experience. The man I'm talking about is, of course, William James. Now, William James is using a psychedelic drug. In his chapter on the mystic experience in the Varieties, as a matter of fact, he describes the effect of nitrous oxide, that's laughing gas, in wilder poetry and enthusiasm than we ever used to describe LSD when we were at Harvard. And Professor James at Harvard ran into a little trouble too. They were saying, do you know that Professor James is running nitrous oxide parties in the Back Bay? At other times in the past, such men as William Blake, did you know he was a psychologist? Shankaracharya, the great visionaries and mystics of the Catholic and Protestant Church, a Hasidic thread throughout the Jewish religion, the Sufis of Islam, back to the Buddha and Lao Tzu. Their tradition of finding meaning within, of finding some method of turning on, of finding the divine process inside has been going on. It always runs along as a thread in human history, underlying the exploits of politicians and soldiers and legislators, but it's there. It's the most powerful tradition that men have ever passed on. There's something that most people don't understand about the visionary quest or the psychedelic experience. It's not just a glorious kick. Interestingly enough, there's just as much lawful regularity in the processes of consciousness which exist at many levels inside your nervous system and your cellular structures as there are in the forms of energy which we see around us. Just as the microscope 300 years ago opened up the possibility for man of bringing into vision lawful, regular sequences of energy which were hitherto invisible, so do the psychedelic drugs today bring into vision and awareness lawful processes, energy transactions which exist within inside the nervous system, which are just as real as the 3,000 words in the English language by which most of us define what we call normal reality. But I'm sorry to say,
I'm going to pause this for just a moment because that right there, you know, that backing up even a little bit, you know, he's describing what others see as God or goddess or multiples of them being literally that energy that connects everything in the universe. And this is something that when you study chemistry and physics, you find that, okay, even though these are invisible interactions, they are still observable because their impact is measurable. You can see the energy exchange that happens with something when it's, say, releasing heat, for example. You know, that's the result of a chemical reaction. So you can literally see, okay, all of these electrons on every fucking atom in existence, and even smaller than that, going down to like bosons. All of these subatomic particles interact with all of the other ones around them. That energy that is passing from one electron to another as it reacts with this, then with that, that's passing that energy along. That is literally an energy network being formed between every fucking particle in existence. And we're a part of that. We cannot deny that we exist as a part of this nature. So like I love the way he puts these things, because literally I came to the spiritual conclusions that I have because of studying chemistry and physics. It's like, oh, that finally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It's cool. See, I look at it like from a social lens, right? Like, people are all connected, and there's common bonds, even if they're very small, between every single person to every other single person on the planet.
Yep.
Like, take it or leave it. You might think your neighbor's an asshole, but guess what?
Right.
There's more to it than you think.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little sidetracked while listening when he was speaking about that book of religious, what was it? The varieties of religious experiences. And then I kind of, oh my goodness, stupid fizzy water. Got sucked into like, okay, well, what do they mean by varieties of religious experiences? And they're talking about like looking at a starry sky, looking at a flower, seeing God out in nature, like these tiny things that you take advantage of, but at the same time can be like so meditative that you get into like, I heard somebody once describe it as like flow. It's like when you're like working on an art project or something like that, or making music or whatever, or writing, and you just get so sucked into it that you lose hours at a time because you're in flow.
Yep.
But it's like a great state to be in, so like, why stop?
Pretty much. Yes. And dude, I love to draw, I love to paint, and most of the time I will sit outside to do so, because I'd rather be outdoors and just enjoying that flow. Like when you're feeling the wind blow, you're sitting in the grass, things like that. It's so much more of a peaceful and therefore creatively productive space to be in, physically and mentally, than just sitting at the couch at an easel,
Yeah. I would agree. And like from the arts perspective too, like I had a hard time with people, but then when I started drawing live people, or I'd have to do self-portraits of just myself from a mirror, it made things a lot easier, because like I was getting those fine muscle movements in my face and really getting to understand the shapes and angles instead of like looking at a photo and copying it.
Right.
Because when you do that, it really shows in your drawing, like you've taken all the life force out of it.
Yeah.
But when you're drawing it from actual emotions, you're capturing so much more, and it seems more alive than...
Yeah. It's translating better onto the page when you're actually seeing the shift in slight shadows because of facial movements, things like that really add that depth to a drawing or a painting and bring it to life.
Yeah, just makes it more special that way.
Things like that tend to flow better when you're in that connected space.
Right. But this is so fun. I'm like, I kind of need to go read that book now, because I'm curious what else, since I'm just getting the top layer.
I'm kind of curious what all's in there too, because I mean I've got friends all across the spectrum of, you know, from atheist to the most, you know, religious in varying religions, and all of them describe similar divine experiences that are no different to me than like when I'm in meditation, or if I go take a fistful of mushrooms and I'm out in the woods, and that overwhelming feeling of just being calm, centered, and connected with everything, and just being, letting that energy flow through and with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same type of experience that religious people get when they're in prayer, um, things like that. You know, so it's one of those areas where there's multiple routes to that energetic connection.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, all of them have been shit on over the years. So, like when with any religion or whatnot, you're gonna find, you know, there's some bullshit that you gotta not include. But you know, look at the good stuff, the metaphorical teachings that are supposed to lead you in that direction of actually being connected with each other, with the planet, the whole nine yards.
Mm-hmm.
And every religion and spiritual belief out there has those same, you know, roots as far as getting back to that nature connection. So you know, that's the one area where I've been able to find, okay, well, you know, there actually is some science to back those few things. Common truths, and they hold the same regardless of whether you're talking about you know, Wiccan paganism, or if you're talking about Buddhist teachings, if you're talking about Native American spirituality, if you're talking about Yoruba with the Orishas, all of them come back to those same things of all of these gods and goddesses described are linked to a force of nature that you're
Mm-hmm.
experiencing when you're actually out in the world living.
Right. And it's like you as the individual gets to like pick your channel. Like I was just seeing Natalie talking about like having bare feet in the grass. Like that's the like for her. And that's super cool. I have some sensory problems, so that is not my route. But like meditation for me, like when I can get into a good groove, it can like hang with me all day. Just that like that I achieved in that like 10-minute just like chill the F out.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're centering your energy and giving yourself some space to just be and find that balance again. And that makes a
Mm-hmm.
world of difference in how you're able to mediate the shit you deal with all throughout the day, of whether it's going to be a roller coaster that peels your face back, or if it's going to be just taking it stride and, you know, feel like gliding over it, you know, in a nice big truck with lovely shocks in there where it's like, zoom, barely feel it. You know,
Right.
makes a difference. Because okay, when it comes to your perspective and how you're viewing the world around you, that's going to come back to your own vibe, how you're feeling, and everything that you cross paths with through the day. You then have to make a choice of whether you're going to filter everything that's happening around you through that lens of what you're feeling, or if you're going to go, okay, I might be feeling this way about this shit that happened this morning that isn't resolved, but I
Mm-hmm.
filtered this experience through that. No, you know, you're presented with these choices, and it makes it a lot easier to mediate those if you're starting the day in the right frame of mind in the first fucking place, where you give yourself that energetic reset moment, so that way you can actually handle those things as they come a lot better, you know, and not constantly have the emotional reactions to things, you know,
Right,
being able
because
to back.
you're always gonna get back what you put out,
that
and
that's
it's
lost.
so baseline. And nobody get. I mean, shit. Recently, I've had to be like, work's been nuts. We're like super duper short staffed and it's getting worse every week. And I'm like, okay, the only person I can control is myself. So
Right.
that is
That.
what I need to focus on. Is like, what do I need to get through this day?
Yes.
Like, I need to check in. I need to tap out when it gets too stressful, and it is okay to tap out and walk away. Because sometimes you are the problem and you just need to go. Like,
Yeah. Sometimes you just need some space to go get some
Yeah.
perspective.
and
Have
also,
a moment
the
as the
key-
observer.
right. And sometimes they just need a different face too. They're probably like, I am so tired of this. If I could choke this bitch out, I would. But like, please.
Right.
Like,
And that's one of those things. Like, I mean, does the concept apply universally to all kinds of shit? No. You could waste money left and right buying lotto tickets, and it doesn't mean that eventually you're going to manifest a win. But when it comes to how you interact with the people around you throughout your day, if you're throwing out stank vibes, guess what you're going to get back?
shit.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I say that every day because those little buggers, if you come in with a shit attitude, they know and they're gonna attack in whatever way they feel fit.
Yep.
However, my little buggers now, they just come over and they're like, you having a rough day? They'll like pat me on the back or like give me ask first, like, do you need a side hug? And I'm like, I would love a side hug, please.
Right. You're teaching them some very important things there about how to hold space for other people and how to recognize if somebody's having a rough moment or rough day and be able to actually help instead of making it worse. You know, because a lot of times the people, that is the first reaction, is they'll see that as a weakness that they can take their shit out on it, pick it apart. And instead you're teaching them healthy tools of like, no, when you see that somebody's having a rough day, go check on them.
Yeah. And like, it's okay if they're having a rough day 25 days in a row and you're like, you know what? I can't help you right now, but I'm going to find someone who can.
Yeah.
Makes all the damn difference in the whole world.
Yes. It does. Sometimes all it takes is that moment of just some sheer empathy, the acknowledgement, the validation of like, I see that there's a problem and I get it because, you know, maybe I've dealt with a similar problem or another person who I know has dealt with a similar problem. I get it. And, you know, I'll see what I can do to help. That's all it fucking takes sometimes to really turn somebody's day around. To give a shit.
Yes.
Just give a shit.
There's so much to just simply being seen sometimes. Like, shit. I think of, like, time periods where in my life where I was in, like, depression mode, which oddly for me is not during the cold, frigid months. Like, that's my thriving time. Summer. I fucking hate summer. It is hot. I am a miserable bitch, and that's when I've lost all my favorite people. So, like, if I go to depression mode, it's during the summer. But it's like just to have someone reach out, hey, you want to go for a swim? You want to go for a walk?
Right.
You want to hang out in air conditioning? It's like, yes, please.
Right. Yes. I'm absolutely down for that. I don't know. I love the warmer weather, but the cold gets painful for me. You know, if it weren't for the painful factor from nerve damage, you know, I would still enjoy hiking in the winter time and stuff too. But, you know, I like the nice weather. I like going for a swim, going kayaking, going hiking.
Yeah, I'm trying to embrace it. Zach's really, like, helped me with it. Like, we could go swimming. We could be on the water. That would be an option for you to stay cool and be outside. It's like, okay.
Right?
I'll go. Or like the farmer's market. I can be easily, drug out to a farmer's market because food is a good motivator. I don't care what anybody says.
Especially fresh produce like that and like local raw honey. And, It don't matter what the weather is. If the farmer's market's open, I'm down.
Right?
Like, let's go. Dig it.
Yeah.
I always find cool stuff there. Matter of fact, I gotta show you this.
Ooh.
The last
We
trip
got
to the farmer's market, I got this from this hippie couple there that makes handmade jewelry. Yeah, I have a thing for turquoise. I got this one not long before, so I wanted one for each hand, so I had turquoise on both hands. But they're different types of turquoise, clearly. But yeah, when I find handmade jewelry like that,
Mhm.
I get it if I can, you know. But yeah, just, you know, simple shit like that. I'm a stone person. I collect rocks everywhere I go.
That's awesome. I love rocks and stuff too. I don't have a collection, but like anything you had your turquoise, like I'm literally am wearing my turquoise earrings right now.
Hell yeah.
There's this like it's called Scout. It's a small business. I think they're in like the East Coast, but like they donate a good chunk of their proceeds from every purchase to battered women's shelters, which also like sends it out of the park for me. Like, okay, you got rocks, you got silver, you donate all the time, not just like, oh, it's October, let's donate to breast cancer if you buy this pink shit.
Right? Hell yeah. And dude, the handcrafted stuff like that, that's somebody putting their time, their attention, their talents, and their love into as they're making that. So, you know, to me, that's the best. I've never been one for like big store jewelry, you know, like that's, I could care less about the super fancy shit. I like the raw shit like that. Like somebody drilled a hole in this beautiful stone.
Right?
Found a cool rock outside, put it in a tumbler, drilled a hole in it, and made something with it. That's cool to me, you know. I like the natural stuff.
It's a labor of love.
Yes, yes, indeed.
I was checking in on the comments.
Yes. And yep, well said, Natalie. You're not always the right person to be able to help another person, but you don't give up and you try to find someone able to help or get through to them. Absolutely.
Helps them build trust with you, because it's like, I know you're not my person, but I know you can find my person. Huge.
Hell yeah. Well,
That's the best.
yeah, we can dive back into some more Timothy Leary and see what other thoughts he invokes. You ready?
I'm in.
Awesome sauce.
Procedures of my profession require just as much hard work, disciplined attention, and regular practice as do the disciplines of physics or chemistry or politics. The psychedelic experience is no shortcut. There's no instant mysticism, there's no instant psychoanalysis, there's no instant anything. Just as a person who first looked at the microscope could look at it and he didn't know what it was, so the initiate, the person who takes LSD for the first time, is whirled into a cellular, capillary, tissue, protein molecule universe that is completely incomprehensible to him. Now, the microscope was first discovered. Someone could look at it and say, ooh, amazing, bugs. An artist might look at a microscope and say, amazing design, I'll paint new pictures. The neurotic would look at the microscope and say, ooh, my mother-in-law. The guy from the establishment would look in the microscope and say, there's no place for us for this in our Bibles and medical tracts. Clearly, this is the work of the devil. Arrest that man.
There was so much of that back in the day.
But there's always those few people that look at the microscope and they begin thinking, what is this all about? And they keep looking. They keep looking. They keep looking. They look at a leaf. They look at a snowflake. They look at a raindrop. They look at a drop of blood from a sick person. a drop of blood from a well person. And slowly, painfully, after hundreds of observations and careful record keeping, they begin to detect some lawful regularities here. And they start drawing little designs. And then they call someone else who's not a neurotic, who's not a police from the establishment looking for the devil, and say, hey, look at this drop of blood from a sick person. And look at the drop of blood from a well person. You catch on? You get the point? The science of cytology or of microbiology was hard work. It took constant observation, record keeping, passing on to your fellow man, replication, checking out of observation, and very slowly the science comes into being. Now the science of turning on and tuning in is nothing new to our generation. Every generation, every historical era in the past has had its visionary voyagers. They've kept their logs, they've passed on their methods, they've passed on their observations, and we can check out the discoveries of the Buddha or Shankaracharya or St. John of the Cross, just as a student of physics today can check out Galileo's experiments with inclined planes. And you know, it happens to work. The divine process, the genetic code in its many manifestations, has been playing this game for 2 billion years, and there are regularities. Human language changes from century to century, but the nervous system doesn't really. The processes of energy around us, as registered by our sense organs, don't really change. The problems of survival on this strange, dark planet haven't changed that much in the last 100,000 years. And these are the messages, ancient and orthodox, which are rediscovered, reinterpreted, and added to by the psychedelic voyager today. Now let me tell you something about the process of turning on. You have to have a sacrament. What is a sacrament? A sacrament is something visible and external that you don't worship, but that you use as a key for getting you out of the immediate time-space tribal game and turning you on to what's inside. Now, as you look back over the history of human religions and the science of consciousness, you will realize after a while that man has used almost every possible technique for turning on. And oddly enough, he's used opposite techniques. It staggers the imagination to think of something that man at one time or another hasn't used to turn on. He's used silence and solitude, or he's crowded together in large groups in small rooms to make chants and noises. He has used sexual renunciation, or he has used the carefully worked out, exquisitely detailed sacramental techniques of tantric Buddhism, where your mate is the goddess and making love is the way to turn on to the divine plan. He has used fasting, and he has used careful diet, as macrobiotic people do today. Now the sacrament is always seen as dangerous. And let's not cut corners here. Any sacrament which works is dangerous in two ways. In the first place, it flips you out of your mind. It flips you out of the space-time coordinates of Westwood in 1967. And if it doesn't do that, beloved robots, it's not working. You have to go out of your mind to come to your senses, to use your head, to resurrect your body, and to travel back in the soft time machinery, which is your tissue and cellular apparatus. But the real danger of a sacrament which works is its danger to the current establishment. If the sacrament works, it throws into different perspective the rituals and the orthodoxy and the structure of the time. Now, over and over again, we've seen this operate in human history. The Buddha, 2,200 years ago, tried all the methods after he dropped out of the palace. He wandered around, he fasted, flagellated himself, studied the Vedas. None of them worked because they'd been made too institutional. He sat down under the tree. You might call his turn-on technique the first sit-in. And he said, I'm going to stay here until I make it. But 500 years ago or so, A man named Martin Luther looked at the current establishment. And at that time they said, in order to find God, you have to get a lawyer. It's all in this book, but the lawyers are the only ones who can have this book, and you have to pay the lawyer fees, which are called penances and indulgences, and he'll make it for you. It didn't make any sense to Luther, and he said, we got to drop out of that. He's looked around for a new sacramental method. The sacramental method is always a new technological device. The first time the fellow ran down and got a reed and blew through it to reproduce breathing, or took a skin and put it over a log and reproduced the heartbeat, the pulse of the universe, and he turned him on that way. It's always a new technological device which is seen as unnatural by society. In the case of Martin Luther, the thing that made his religion go was a very dangerous device, the printing press. You see, the printing press really pulled the rug out of the establishment, because the printing press meant that you could print the Bible in large quantities. That meant, you mean, Martin, you're saying that any layman in his house can have this sacred thing, and without the cardinals and the establishment, he can confront God by himself? Yeah, Martin Luther said, that's exactly it. It's you standing there naked with your turn-on instrument, the Bible, and making it. But Martin, if God had intended that man uses an artificial technique like a printing Bible, he would have made man that way. Now, another thing about your sacrament is, if it turns you on, it confuses you. It's got to confuse you, because you're just not prepared by the tribal dialect for what you're going to discover. Unfortunately, I must announce to you, robots, that God doesn't speak English. He's been speaking English for about 400 or 500 years. Before that, he spoke Latin. Before that, Greek, then Sanskrit. The facts of the matter, as I read my cellular scripture, God's been talking cellular and molecular for hundreds of millions of years. And the biochemical phenomena is the key to deciphering what the divine process hath writ. And remember, there's that regularity. You have to have maps, you have to have manuals, you have to have a guide, you have to be planned. Otherwise, you'll be very confused. And it's hard work, it's repetition, it's keeping your attention over and over again on this ancient voyage. Now, I want to give you a little illustration of this. The first time that I was ever turned on biochemically,
Forgot my mic was muted. Pause here for a moment.
I feel like we should call some attention to Natalie's comment. Why is it always back to the devil? Could it be religious indoctrination? This isn't a real question, it's the answer.
Yep. So when I saw that, I just started nodding my head like, yep. Yeah, that's the thing. Well, I mean, when it comes to religion, that's where, there's a lot of fault, because if you can blame everything bad that ever happens on the devil, or call anything that you don't understand, like he was describing of like the scientific study of the human body, of people doing autopsies to see how the body works and things like that, or drawing blood and looking at it under a microscope to see, is there a pathogen in this blood? Things like that. Oh, must be the devil. That's the devil's work. It's one of those things where they look for this mystery to put blame on, and also use it to demonize anything that people are doing that they don't understand and therefore just don't like. And it's not okay, No. It's a figment of your imagination being used as a scapegoat, A lot of scientific discovery has been treated like that over the years. Some of it still does.
Which is really, really sad. Like, for me, growing up, my grandpa, I called Papa, told me to, like, question things. And then if people gave you pushback about what you were questioning, it's wrong. It's bad, because they're not willing to be forthcoming with information and share things and let you in.
Yep.
And so I think that kind of like turned me off of the path of religion, because it was like I had tried going to church a couple times, but as soon as I started to ask, like, why do you do this, or what does this mean, or that, seems silly or odd, I'd get like, no, we just do it, and that's enough for you. Ha ha, pat pat, go away. Like,
Man. Yeah, I feel that because I mean, nobody had ever really warned me about watching what people say like that to see if they get defensive, but I experienced it pretty young. I was like 7 or so when I got into it with one of the assistant pastors at the Pentecostal church cult, let's be honest, that my family was dragging me to. And I forget which verses it was I was questioning, but I pointed out that there was a contradiction, and was like, so which one of them's true? Because, you say that this book is God's word and we are supposed to believe all of it. But if this says the opposite of that, which one do I believe? And he basically called me a heathen blasphemer and said he threatened to throw me in the fucking garbage can outside, said that's where I belonged because I was trash for questioning God's word. And at that point, I was like, okay, fuck all of this, I mean, I'd already experienced sexism there and all kinds of other shit. That was one of the last straws for me, where I quit going to that church and their school and went back to public school because of that kind of shit right there. Like, yeah, no, if you can't even answer a simple question like that, something's off here.
and what a horrible experience for you. Like, I mean, God, I can't even fathom that kind of stuff, because I would have been out the door, because that's what I was told to do. Like,
Right.
They're not going to answer you, leave.
Right. Well, thankfully I figured that much out for myself. My family was not, like by that point in time, my dad was also getting fed up with a lot of shit at that church, so, it ended up, working out favorably of like, yeah, no, my brother and I were both like, yeah, no, we're done. And so when my dad was like, I'm done too, then there was no more fight about, of like, sure, Mom, you can keep going if you want to, but we're just not joining you,
Like, we're out. This is stupid.
Right. Like, ain't nobody threatening to throw me in the trash for asking a question. You call it Sunday school for a reason, and at school there are no dumb questions. You get to ask whatever you want, and the teacher should be able to explain what the fuck they're teaching.
Right? And, oh man, I don't want to get sidetracked, but yeah, I do. Think about all the stuff going on in like the southern states right now, like don't say gay and all this other shit. Like, God, you are damaging so many people over shit that doesn't fucking pertain to you.
Right. It's don't ask, don't tell, but for kids. What the fuck? What the fuck?
The second you cut them off from information, and I am very much like this now as an adult, if you tell me I can't know something, I am 20 times more determined to find that fucking answer myself, because you won't give it to me. Yep. So wouldn't it be wise for you to just tell me the first time? Share your story? I don't know. Maybe that just made me sound really fucked up, but like...
No. It's a fucked up observation of some actual fucked up shit, but that don't make you fucked up.
It's like, self-reflection is not a bad thing.
Right. It's one of those things that Jean Brahm talks about, that at the beginning of your day, at the end of your day, at various points throughout the day, you are alone with yourself. You have to come to terms with how to treat yourself with loving kindness. That means also being able to look in the mirror and, reflect on everything of what you're doing right, what you could be doing better, and choose to be a better person today than you were yesterday. Things like that. But it starts with, you have to accept yourself. And a lot of times I find that people get into those headspaces, like this don't say gay shit of not wanting to accept other people as they are, because when it comes down to it, they're not actually accepting themselves for who they
Right.
are in the first place. So they don't know how to accept anybody else.
Right. It's just, it's so sad and it's so hurtful, and it like fosters a lot of environment for misinformation.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like kids don't know how to check sources. They don't understand that Wikipedia can be updated by anybody, and one day could say one thing and the next day say something completely different. Like,
Right. You have to teach them how to actually identify a legit source.
right.
Look at how much disinformation is passing amongst adults today, and a lot
Mhm.
of it's because they were never taught how to find a legit source for something. I mean, especially, okay, given back in the day, like when I was in elementary school, home computers were only first starting to be a thing. It was rare for, like, the schools to even start having computer classes yet and stuff. So like
Mhm.
literally everything in the library, you had to go by the Dewey Decimal System, if I remember right. You had to like pull
Yeah.
up a card with
There's
the
like
number
card catalog.
in the shelves and find the motherfucker. You couldn't look it up on a computer. It wasn't logged into a computer yet, if they'd even bought a computer yet. That shit was still being transferred over into the digital realm. So like when it comes to stuff like that, we were taught the difference between here is the fiction zone and here is the nonfiction zone. In the nonfiction is where you can find stuff that at least has been peer reviewed. If it's scientific stuff, it's been tested over and over and over and over and over again to be able to come to some solid conclusions.
Mhm.
However, science retains the wisdom and frame of mind of, when presented with new evidence, we can change our perspective here. But
Right.
until we're going on the evidence that we have, and that means this. So like we were taught some basics there of how to find legitimate sources, but a lot of that has been lost with everything going into the digital form, where it's transitioned from, like, when I was in high school and early time in college, you couldn't use an internet source as a source for anything in your fucking papers. You had
Right.
to have gone and sourced a real book in the fucking library. If you tried to do your works cited and it had shit on there that was a website, they would go, "What the fuck is this? Not verifiable."
Exactly. Right.
You know? Now it's at least gotten better where you can find stuff that is verifiable online, but you have to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. You have to look at the peer reviews, the whole fucking 9 yards. And a lot of
Yeah.
people either don't know where to find the stuff or don't have the fucking time to look, because again, capitalism keeping everybody so tied up in other shit that they don't even have time to build their a priori knowledge basis with things like this.
Right. I mean, fuck. I was finishing college in 2012, and I remember being able to use internet resources, but it was like you could only use 2 to 3, and you had to put in your citations like the date and time in which you visited said web page so that they could go back and check
Wow.
like that you did it
Damn.
at certain time, place, because things, like you said, stuff changes, so they wanted to make sure we were consistent.
Right. And they would go and check to make sure it's an actual like educational resource,
Right.
that
So
it
it was
is
like
accredited.
Google Scholar. You can pull articles from Google Scholar. This is acceptable,
Right. Right. If it's
Otherwise,
stuff that's been through that peer review process and been confirmed of, okay, there's some legit science here that is being reported, read these abstracts, things like that. But yeah,
right.
Natalie, problem
Can't
is
even.
we can't trust the fact checkers online. A lot of them just
No.
admitted that most of their fact checking is actually just their opinion. And, well, I mean, most of us are sitting here nodding our heads like, yep, could have told you that. There's been so
Right.
many times I've found things incorrectly fact checked and have messaged the fact checkers like, here's where you misinterpreted even your own fucking scientific source. Like, oh God, what's that one couple that is one of the biggest fact checkers ever. I can't remember the name of their company, but it's one of the biggest, fact checkers out there. They were pulling science abstracts that were legit sources from medical journals and misinterpreting the conclusions of them to fit their fucking opinion, but they're wanting to frame it as instead of the actual facts. And I'm like, you didn't even properly fucking read this abstract here, because you just said that the conclusion is the opposite of the conclusion they fucking drew here. And what the fuck, like, stop pretending to be an authority on something that you clearly have not studied well enough to even fucking interpret the data. Fuck,
Right?
it's so frustrating. But that, I don't know how the fuck we got that far off in left field, but
That's okay.
It's really frustrating, to have to contend with disinformation like that. And well, to bring it full circle, there's a lot of disinformation like that about psychedelic drugs, about spirituality, things like that, and a lot of it is people not wanting resistance to how they want to frame society and how they think it should work, and they're like, this doesn't fit with my paradigm I want to build.
It's just,
I'm reading Natalie's comments.
yeah.
They don't care. I think all social media gets reported to some type of computer program. Yeah, they're using AI to filter the stuff and look for specific keywords. And as soon as they find what, they put their fact checkers, which is really opinion checkers.
Do you align with the right? Then we might post your stuff.
Right.
So, oh gosh, down the rabbit hole. Oh my God.
Yes, yes, that was the hell of a rabbit hole.
I like it. I think about Elon Musk buying Twitter just because his little feelings got hurt because he can't be publicly racist. So then he buys Twitter so he can be publicly racist on Twitter.
That's one factor. Another factor is there's a guy out there that has been tracking Elon's private plane everywhere that he goes and posting it.
Oh my God.
Silence the guy. So, there's that facet. There's so many things. And there's Rob. I'll have to call him back. We do have to wrap up soon.
Okay.
In about 45 minutes, I've got to hop in the other Restream studio to do the current events for this week. We're pre-recording that tonight because Rob's got to work tomorrow and we want him to be able to partake. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Understandable.
But yeah, I don't know. The train of thought went with the phone ringing. I don't know.
Auditory disruptions. That's one of my sensory things. Sounds. I can't handle too many sounds in one space at a time. If more than one person is talking to me at once, I shut down. This is really ugly.
It's one of those things where if it's only a couple of people, and 3 people all talking at once, my brain can separate that and be able to engage with both at the same time. It goes back to some of the girls that I grew up with, and the sheer amount of chatter that would happen over each other and multiple conversations going on at once, bouncing between us. The skill is there. However, if it's like a lot of people talking at once, my brain is like, like we're gonna want all of it.
See, that's how I get when there's 2. Is I'm like, I want to hear everything you're saying. I want to absorb your words and your bodily expressions. And I cannot do that if somebody else is trying to talk to me because I'm distracted, because I can no longer decipher tone, or I'm not making eye contact. And those are 2 big, I can't do this.
I feel ya. Yeah, that frustration definitely gets there when trying to look back and forth between
Yes.
both people. Like, okay, I'm listening to you both. I'm trying anyway.
My boss always called me out about it. He's like, you make way too much eye contact and it's scary. And I'm like, but I want you to know that I'm listening to you. And that's how I show that I can listen to you and I'm focused 100% here.
Yeah,
I agree. Natalie, I do better in one-on-one small groups. Yeah, that's easier. That's safer.
right, really is. It makes you think, one of my friends had a big impact on that with me, because just the way that he was raised was you make eye contact and give that acknowledgement when somebody's talking to you. And I was raised in a really like fundamentalist religious, environment of like, if you're looking somebody in the eye while they're talking at you, then you're challenging their authority. And yes, I got to say it like that, like Cartman, and find a laugh about it, or it'll just piss me off. But, I remember him stopping me one time because he thought I wasn't listening to what he was saying because I wasn't looking him right in the eye. And, I hadn't thought anything of it. I didn't even realize, like, he thought I just was tuning him out. And he was like, will you look me in the eye when I'm telling you this? And I was like, oh, okay. Like I didn't think of it that way until you told me. Like, to me, that's a sign of, acknowledgement and, that connection that you're actually listening. If you're looking in the eye, if you're not looking at me, then I think you're not listening to me. And I was like, oh, my bad. I didn't mean to, like come off that way. But it's been ever since then. I was probably like 13 or 14 when he said it to me. And ever since then, I make that effort to keep eye contact with somebody when they're communicating with me. So that does make it frustrating when two people are talking at once and trying to give them both the acknowledgement. And then they end up looking at each other awkwardly, like, which one of us is she listening to? And I'm like,
both.
Trying.
That's a gift, though, for real.
The multitasker brain. Yeah.
That's a gift, definitely. See, I just have to, like, put my hand or, like, give some sort of nonverbal, like, I know you want my attention, but it's not ready for you, so give me a sec. It's really cute. They'll, like, come over and, like, put their hand on my arm or something and just be like, Miss Amanda, I see you as busy, and you will get mad if I talk, so I will wait for you.
Right.
It's like, it's sad that I've like trained you, like, this is how we're doing this. Like, this is the one instance.
And to wait their turn for something that, because it is rude to just walk up and rah, rah, rah over the conversation already happening, so that's a good thing that it's teaching them to check themselves on that and not just come up and interrupt. Instead, they're gently letting you know by touching your arm, like, hey, I'm here when you have a moment.
Yeah.
Too. And that's a much healthier way than just barging in, Miss Amanda, I need blah, 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 this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
And, making the other kid who you're helping already be like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Like, did you not see me sitting here, asshole?
Right? Like,
that's like a Montessori thing too, apparently, having them like come up and put their hand on you and like wait or give some sort of like stand next to you but keep quiet, like I'm waiting.
Make your presence known, but don't interrupt.
Yep. Exactly.
It's just manners.
But then, like, some of the kiddos that I've trained to do this go back into their, like, gen ed classrooms, and the teacher's like, what the fuck are they doing right now? Like, they want to talk to you, but they see that you're busy. So they're letting you know, when you're done, I need you.
Right.
And they're like, oh. But to me, I'm like, how do you not know that's what they want?
It seems like it would just register with them, like, oh, this other student walked up, they must need something, they're standing here just very patiently staring at me. What do you need?
Yeah.
How can I be of help? But I don't know. That also got ingrained because one of my aunts was a teacher, and even when I was pretty young, I was already going to her school and like tutoring her students and stuff.
Hmm.
I was in like 5th or 6th grade and tutoring her 2nd and 3rd graders, and would help her grade papers and shit like that. But whenever I was over there at the school she worked at, the kids knew that if they needed help and Miss Nancy was busy, they could come ask Miss Tricia, "Hey, can you help us with this?" Sure, what you need, you know? And she did the same thing, teaching them a lot of patience and respect, and proper communication skills of like, hey, if we're both busy, if I'm at this table and she's at that table and you guys over at this table need help too, just come tap one of us on the shoulder and, hey, can our table be next? All right, I got you. you know?
That's so cool. That was your cool aunt that you were talking about last time, right?
Mhm.
Because I think you mentioned her last time too.
I don't recall what I mentioned about her last time, but yeah, she was super cool. Now I remember of actually skipping school to go to her college classes with her. I did that quite frequently. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I was that dork, nerd, whatever, both.
There's nothing wrong with that. I loved school. I'd probably, if I could be a student for the rest of my life, I would definitely take advantage.
Right.
The system won't let me.
I know, it's like I just want to learn all the things, but I mean, at least there's other ways to access those materials. I mean, hell, you can go and sit in on college classes in these big lecture halls without paying the tuition. You're just not going to get the piece of paper that says this person learned this shit. You can still go and listen to the lectures. You can go to the bookstore and buy the book, or go to the library and borrow a copy of it if they have it, or something, find a digital copy online in many cases, and learn the material. There's nothing wrong with being self-educated.
Right.
There's a lot of shit that I did not fucking know when I got my last degree in 2008, but I am forever going to be a student in this world. If I'm not still learning something the day that I die, then I've failed. There's always going to be something more to learn.
Right. And actually, that kind of circles me back around to politics in that, like, okay, so you look at the kind of jobs people have, right?
Mhm.
There's like these big kahuna bosses, mid-level bosses, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But like the skilled labor, and there's so many jobs out there that require ongoing training. I feel like the jobs that actually require you to continue to take classes and to expand your knowledge, or physically go get additional skills to make your job more efficient, better, safer, etc. Like, those are the jobs that we need to be fixated on. Those are the jobs we need to invest in, because that's obviously the stuff that's important. Not these, like, Elon Musk. I'm just going for him today. I'm sorry. There's other ones too.
Go for him. He deserves it. Got it all coming. Just a reminder to everybody that, his family is wealthy because of blood emeralds. So he's got it all coming. Dish it.
Yeah. So those types of shit people who are in these power positions but don't really have any knowledge or skill set, or probably couldn't explain to you how their lowest paid worker does their job, has a lot to fucking say about society. Shit.
Right? Like, people want to give him credit, like, oh, see, he's making Tesla's creations. Motherfucker, Tesla was the genius in that equation for creating those things in the first place, that he was then able to acquire the blueprints for and, start making. Secondly, he hired a bunch of smart people to do the making.
Right.
He didn't do it. He just took some of, the money from initially the emerald mines on his dad's side of the family, and probably some contributions for mom too, because she's been a very wealthy top model since she was like 15, and she's like 70 now, still working. Okay. Very, very wealthy family he was born into. And so he had that seed money to start up PayPal, and when he sold PayPal, He and his brother started a couple other businesses up, and they've done the same thing of just, build something out, sell it, make a huge profit. So every one of these companies, it's like, okay, he was able to exploit this many people's labor to build enough value there to sell that and start the next thing to exploit other people's labor. And that's thing people want to talk about the wages at Tesla. Now I'd have to look them up to see where they're at, but while there's probably some positions that pay a living wage, that doesn't mean all of them necessarily are, because I've seen, people sharing out complaints from Tesla employees. So it's like, clearly there's some issues. Like, it's just another one of those moments, no different than the way people were, coming for Jeff Bezos, because both of them were building their fucking dick rockets to fly into the sky at at the expense of their employees. Those were millions, if not billions, in unpaid wages there.
I'm sorry, I'm just picturing dick rockets, and this is like made my day.
Makes me think of Dr. Evil and his literal dick rocket, like.
Yes. Oh, I could cry.
They look like, but yeah, I don't know, man.
Oh. So back to Elon Musk's shittiest paid employees for Tesla are paid $35,000 a year, and they are plant manufacturers, so hard labor, intensive training and retraining, and paid
poverty wages.
In poverty wages.
What the fuck, Elon? What the fuck?
What a jerk. And then it followed with some workers are paid $88,000 a year. Oh boy.
Right.
A field
I don't
tech
know if
for
this is broadcasting to Twitter or not, but if it is, I bet it'll get removed if he does buy it. He'll be like, oh shit, somebody had something bad to say about me.
Right. I'm gonna go cry about it.
Right.
A field tech for Tesla is paid $15 an hour.
Oh, wow. Dude, you'd still need a second income in the home at minimum to survive.
Right. That's gross.
What the fuck, Elon?
He don't care. I'm smart enough to exploit them. They're just stupid. Maybe if you were smarter, you wouldn't have all these problems. That's it. Not wealthier. Smarter.
That part right there makes me think of Kim Kardashian having the fucking audacity like a month ago to tell poor people it was bootstrap theory moment of like, stop.
People just don't want to work.
Job and, people just don't want to work. And it's like, wait a fucking minute. Somebody memed her with that part crossed out saying people just don't want to be born rich anymore. And it's like, there we go. You won the birth lottery, bitch. Shut up and sit down.
Right? Oh, let's pull up that work quote. Get your fucking ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days. Tell me about it. Nobody wants to work for $10 and a hug. Nobody wants to take verbal and physical abuse for $14 an hour that requires testing, erratic hours, and employment only 9 months out of the year. Fuck you.
Right.
When's the last time you got smacked in the face with an umbrella at work? Kim? Never. When's the last time you made something beautiful?
So maybe if she worked with Rihanna, she might get smacked with an umbrella.
That could be a meme.
That really could. That could.
Hey.
Goodness. Yep.
Oh, this is so bad. It's so good.
Oh, fuck.
Natalie's made another good comment, too. We do need to stop fucking idolizing rich and famous people and take the power back. God, how scared would they be?
Right. God, people are so caught up in, but it's entertaining to read about these other people's lives. And it's like, wouldn't it be more entertaining to just live one of your own? I don't know. Like, I mean, I like to watch movies and TV shows sometimes and stuff, but I'm not going to waste my time sitting around following the Kardashians on fucking Twitter or some shit to see what they're doing in their lives. No, I'd rather be out hiking or swimming, kayaking if I can get my hands on a yak again. Shit like that. Like I don't
Right.
want to waste my time. I don't care. Life has enough drama. I find peace of
Right.
mind without other people's drama like that.
And like just experience. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm guilty of watching some of it because I'm just like sitting there the whole time, like, the fuck? The fuck? You have everything. Like, you
Right.
have every baseline need met. You're not one paycheck away from financial ruin,
Right.
and you're still finding shit to complain about? And you perpetuate this?
It's part of that
Like,
privilege, dude. They're so detached from the reality of working people. They really think that
right.
money just falls out of everywhere because it did for them.
Yeah, and that's just it. And that's those people are in that such detached state, right? Like everything is internally focused. Well, I did it. That means, no, it doesn't mean that everybody else has the same fucking playing field.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Like, oh, well, you could just get 2 jobs. Okay, bitch. Well, if you work at McDonald's, you work odd hours. Odds are very high that you do not have a set, consistent schedule and set days of the week. You're summoned in whenever you're needed. So how the fuck are you going to plan a second job around that job that's not meeting the baseline needs? There's no reason that people should have to work more than one full-time job to be able to afford to live.
Right. Hell, anymore, you can't even get a job to respect that you're going to school working on degrees and stuff. I see shit people post all the fucking time, like, their manager trying to write them up because, they had scheduled them for work on a day that they knew that person was unavailable because they are in college. And like, I just saw one the other day where a dude was like, yeah, I had exams, of course I'm not going to be there, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you can't respect somebody's availability, you don't get to write them up for it. And now people are to the point of fuck your job because your shitty fucking job is very easily replaceable. Fuck you, goodbye. So like they had posted, the screenshot of the text messages back and forth with their fucking manager. And when the manager was like, by the way, we're going to have to talk about this. You're going to need a doctor's note or something. And he's like, I was at school taking exams, not to mention, I don't need to give you a doctor's note for like when I've told you my availability does not include these days at these times. Fuck you.
Right.
So basically, you just wrote the manager back like, okay, I was gonna put in my 2 weeks, but how about we just call it good right now? I'm done. Have fun filling those fucking shifts.
Right.
Like,
maybe you could pick up some extra time.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's nuts.
And yeah, agreed, Natalie. She said, I can't believe we're still talking about a $15 minimum wage. It's not sustainable.
Nope.
That. Anywhere. When we first started calling for it a fucking decade ago, a little over a decade ago, it was barely sustainable at that point in time in like the poorest and therefore cheapest rent areas of the country. It's not sustainable at all here in this point in time with the way inflation has affected the fucking, housing market. And by inflation, I mean price gouging. It's fucking ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's disgusting. And disappointing. Yeah, like, I mean, shit, minimum wage where I live is like still $7.75, and you've got people like, oh, what the fuck is her name? Joe Manchin had a part in it too. What the hell's her name though?
You're supposed to work
Oh.
like 160 hours a week to survive? What the fuck?
Right. Kristen Cinema. That's right. She's the one that shot it down
That
because she's like,
bitch.
oh, well, this doesn't impact me personally. Like, you were voted into this damn position because you agreed to take care of the people that you are representing. And all you are representing is your own personal fucking interests.
Yep.
Money should be completely eradicated from politics.
Yep.
Big
Agree.
businesses should not be allowed to donate to politicians at all. They should have to go off of fucking public money. If my broke ass wants to give you $10 to go ahead and try and like be in your position of power, then that's what you fucking get. Like,
Right. Well, I mean, there's also the factor of even getting to run shouldn't be behind such an expensive paywall either. Because it gets
Right.
fucking expensive running a campaign. None of it should be run like it is. It's
Yeah.
all fucked. It's all corrupt from start to finish.
like the playing field needs to be leveled hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
Ranked
Yep,
choice. No more two-party. Sorry.
Yeah.
Big feels.
Yes.
But I know you've got your other show and I'm quickly fading. So, would
Well-
this be an okay spot for us to wrap up?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that, and I will save that video where we're at there. If you want, we can dive further into
Yeah.
that next week.
Absolutely.
All right, I'll save that one right now.
Natalie, she is a piece of coal in my stocking, and it extra sucks because I love the stocking more than anything else about Christmas. No joke.
Okay, got that saved.
Yay.
All right. Well, we have no closing music, but I can give you a bountica wow wow.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me of a terrible joke.
Terrible jokes are the best.
Oh, what do they say in a sexy barnyard?
I don't
You know,
know.
what kind of animals do they have in a sexy barnyard? Sorry, that was what it was. Brown
Okay.
chickens, brown cows.
Oh my god. Nice.
Zach is literally like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm married to you. You're welcome.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Brown chicken, brown cow. Natalie, we're not airing that tonight. We're pre-recording it tonight to air tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. We've
Plug
been
shows.
the current. We've been doing the current events on Friday nights for a little bit. So we're just getting it pre-recorded tonight. But yeah, tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central. That would be 8 p.m. Eastern time. Indeed, had to think for a moment. Yes, and then Monday, I'll be back here on this channel with Zach to do People's History of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And Wednesday, I believe we are doing Mao's Combating Liberalism.
Zach, what are you guys doing on Wednesday?
Combat liberalism.
Good. Yep, you were right.
Okay. The memory cells connected.
I was like, you sounded a little apprehensive. Like, wait, I can check sources.
Right? He's right there. And yeah, then we'll be back here next Thursday for another
Yes.
deep dive into psychedelics and psychology. We can just dance to the music in our heads.
Right?
Thank you for joining us for Head Theory.
Yes. Please come back next week. We may or may not talk about a whole bunch of stuff. We might get another 30 seconds into the video.
Right? You never know. That's funny. I'm going to look and see how far we even made it into that. 23 minutes.
I'm proud. So great.
The way it goes sometimes. I love it.
Good
All
night,
right.
party people.
Good night. See you tomorrow, Natalie.
See ya.
And I feel I get confused quite a lot too. It's the struggle of the juggle with the schedules.
Time is hard.
It is. Especially in different time zones.
Mm-hmm. Lots of shuffle. Alright. I gotta put myself to bed. I'm not gonna be a fully functional being.
I feel that.